Well, I've been known as a cryptocurrency hater. I've been known to bash it. I've been known to take a dump on it. I've been known to say the most heinous things about crypto. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Maybe it's time to reevaluate the concept and the theory and the potential bull case behind Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that could potentially take over and eliminate the banking system altogether. Because who wants a centralized system? Who wants centralized control when you can have decentralized freedom through the blockchain? Now, what's going on with Bitcoin? Well, there's been a lot of panic in the banking sector, okay? People are freaking out because multiple banks have collapsed. Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, which by the way had crypto in it. And there's a couple other banks that are at risk of collapsing as well. And people are saying, what is the alternative to putting my money in a bank that is basically a scam, right? Because banks, they take your money and they tell you that you have a certain amount deposited, when in reality, the money's not there. They take the money and they invest it, and you don't necessarily know what they're doing with it, okay? But with Bitcoin, there's the blockchain. It's basically a digital ledger. You can see every single transaction that has ever occurred, okay? You cannot go wrong with Bitcoin. And now it's up almost $11,500. If you had bought the dip of Bitcoin, you'd be up 70% in the past 3 months. Find me one stock, besides AMC, I guess, that would have got you that return. So the question remains, now that there's this banking panic, is Bitcoin a buy? Is Bitcoin the salvation to people who are terrified of putting their money in a bank that's just going to lend it out, lose it, and absolutely collapse? Well, let's explore this concept a little bit more. I read a very, very interesting article on this website here, Cointelegraph.com, okay? Now, these people are claiming that Bitcoin's price is surging because of all the fear and panic going on with the global banking crisis. And I guess I could see people saying, hey, instead of putting my money in a bank, maybe I'll put it in crypto, I guess, okay? Now, here's an interesting quote that I saw. An impending global banking crisis could, emphasis on could, take Bitcoin to $1 million in less than 90 days, former Coinbase Chief Technology Officer Balaji Srinivasan claimed on Twitter. According to Srinivasan's forecast, a U.S. banking crisis would trigger a hyperinflation scenario, leading to the 7-digit Bitcoin price. Srinan is betting $2 million on Twitter on his view of the U.S. economy's future, as well as the potential impacts of Bitcoin's value. Now, that's a very interesting observation, okay? If there was a banking crisis and all the banks collapsed, I would almost say there'd be a deflationary collapse with the U.S. economy, because people wouldn't be spending money. They couldn't take loans, they couldn't buy houses, they couldn't buy cars. The whole banking system would be gone if there was a banking crisis, right? But I guess maybe his argument is, oh, well, the Fed's going to come in and they're just going to print money to infinity, and oh my God, there's going to be inflation and everybody's going to buy Bitcoin. Well, here's the problem with that, okay? First of all, if you believe Bitcoin is going to $1 million, you have to assume that the vast majority of people, or a very sizable portion of people, will use Bitcoin and not use any one of the 8,832 other active cryptocurrencies. Now, if you're looking at Bitcoin and you say, okay, this is going to be the only cryptocurrency that's going to be used in the future. Only one. If that was the case, and it was the only currency around, yes, potentially, Bitcoin could go to $1 million, okay? But there's another problem. On top of there being 8,832 other active cryptocurrencies that anybody could use, what makes Bitcoin so special? There's an inherent flaw with Bitcoin, and that is deflation. There's currently what? A total of 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be minted. Now let's think about this for a second. Simple economic theory. When you have a expanding economy, okay, you have businesses growing, you have people spending more money, you have people's incomes going up. That's economic growth. It's more spending, more income for people. If you think about it, if an economy is growing and growing and growing, eventually, if you have a fixed currency supply, like Bitcoin, $21 million, there will be fewer and fewer Bitcoins chasing more and more goods and services. So if you think about it, would the prices of those goods and services go up over time or go down over time? Well, let me break it to you. They would go down over time. That is known as deflation. Now, according to this excerpt right here from Investopedia, deflation is a sign of a weakening economy. Economists fear deflation because falling prices lead to lower consumer spending, which is a major component of economic growth. Companies respond to falling prices by slowing down their production, which leads to layoffs and salary reductions. Now, I'm not an economist, okay? I'm an accountant. I'm not a genius at this stuff. But I can 100% tell you, this makes total sense to me. If you thought you were going to be able to sell something for a much higher price in the next couple of weeks or months, why sell it now? If you could buy something that's potentially cheaper in the future, why would you buy it now? Of course you wouldn't. You would freaking wait until the price of that item went down, and then you would buy it now. Now, if you thought something was going to increase in price in the future very quickly, yeah, you'd probably buy it now. That's a problem with deflation. It destroys economies. That's why we have a slow, steady rate of inflation that's kind of controlled by the Federal Reserve. Does that make sense? So I go back to this article and I say, okay, apparently all the banks are going to collapse. There's going to be a massive money printing apparently, and everybody's just going to buy Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is just going to skyrocket. And the fact is if Bitcoin goes to 1 million, if inflation is that bad and Bitcoin goes to 1 million, everything else will go to 1 million. It'll all be equally inflated away. It'll be absolutely nothing. I mean, your Bitcoin could be $1 million, and then you sell it, you can still only buy a loaf of bread. So what's the difference there? What, have you made any money? I mean, I guess if you bought Bitcoin instead of holding in dollars, you might have made some money, or at least preserve your buying power a little bit more. But Bitcoin isn't going to save you. Okay, that's my thought. So people like this that are trying to use this banking crisis to pump their garbage cryptocurrencies, pump their bags, are a bunch of scammers. Keep that in mind. Be careful out there. A lot of people just put out fanciful price targets for Bitcoin just to shill their products. And frankly, it's disgusting. Talk to you later. Cheers!